Hello, everyone. Today I am going to talk about Nelson Mandela, one of the most inspirational figures in modern history. His name is known around the world not just for his role in ending apartheid in South Africa, but for his deep belief in justice, peace, and equality. Whether you know a little or a lot about him, I hope this video brings something useful and meaningful to you. Let's begin by understanding who Nelson Mandela was, where he came from, what he stood for, and why his legacy still matters today. Early life, 1918 to 1941. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the small village of Mvezo in the Eastern Cape of South Africa. His birth name was Rolihlahla Mandela, which in the Xhosa language means pulling the branch of a tree, a phrase that also loosely translates to troublemaker. It was a fitting name for someone who would one day challenge one of the most oppressive systems in the world. Mandela was born into the Thembu royal family, part of the Xhosa nation. His father, Gadla Henry Mfakanyiswa, was a local chief and a counselor to the king. Unfortunately, Mandela's father died when he was just 9 years old, and he was adopted by Chief Jongintaba Dalindyebo, the acting regent of the Thembu people. This change in circumstances exposed Mandela to leadership, traditional law, and the power of education. As a young man, Mandela attended Clarkbury Boarding Institute and later the Healdtown Methodist College, both of which were institutions for Black South Africans during colonial rule. He went on to study at the University of Fort Hare, a key institution for Black intellectuals, but he was expelled in 1940 for participating in a student protest. This was the beginning of Mandela's lifelong connection to activism and resistance. Moved to Johannesburg and political awakening, 1941 to 1944. After leaving Fort Hare, Mandela moved to Johannesburg in 1941. There he witnessed the harsh realities of apartheid, segregation, economic inequality, and racial oppression. He worked as a mine security guard and later as a law clerk, while completing his degree through correspondence with the University of South Africa. In Johannesburg, Mandela became deeply involved in the political movement. He met Walter Sisulu, who introduced him to members of the African National Congress, ANC, the main organization fighting for Black rights in South Africa. In 1944, Mandela, along with Sisulu and Oliver Tambo, helped form the ANC Youth League, more radical arm of the ANC that believed in mass action and direct confrontation with the apartheid system. This was the start of Mandela's full-time political life. The struggle against apartheid, 1948 to 1960. In 1948, the National Party came to power in South Africa and officially introduced apartheid, a brutal system of racial segregation that categorized people into racial groups: white, Black, colored, and Indian. Under apartheid, the white minority had all the political and economic power, while the Black majority was denied even the most basic rights. Nelson Mandela and the ANC Youth League began organizing protests, boycotts, and strikes against apartheid laws. In 1952, Mandela played a leading role in the Defiance Campaign, a non-violent resistance movement. He was arrested multiple times for his involvement. During this period, Mandela and Tambo also opened South Africa's first black law firm, Mandela and Tambo, which offered affordable legal services to Black South Africans who were often denied justice in white-dominated courts. But as time went on, Mandela realized that peaceful protest alone might not be enough. From nonviolence to armed struggle, 1961 to 1962, after years of brutal government suppression, Mandela and other ANC leaders made a historic decision. In 1961, Mandela co-founded Umkhonto we Sizwe, or Spear of the Nation, an armed wing of the ANC. He believed that violence should only be used as a last resort, but that it had become necessary to fight injustice. Mandela traveled to other African countries and even to London to gain support and training for the armed struggle. In 1962, he was arrested and sentenced to 5 years in prison for inciting workers to strike and leaving the country illegally, but the government wasn't done with him yet. Rivonia trial and 27 years in prison, 1963 to 1990. In 1963, police raided a farm in Rivonia, near Johannesburg, where they found documents linking Mandela and others to acts of sabotage. This led to the infamous Rivonia trial. Mandela and his comrades were charged with conspiracy to overthrow the government. In his famous "I am prepared to die" speech from the dock, Mandela said, "I have fought against white domination, and I have fought against black domination. I have cherished the ideal of a democratic and free society in which all persons live together in harmony and with equal opportunities." In 1964, Mandela was sentenced to life imprisonment. He spent the next 27 years in prison, mostly on Robben Island in harsh conditions. He was forced to do hard labor, denied visitors, and endured isolation, but he never gave up. Instead, he became a symbol of resistance and a rallying point for the anti-apartheid movement. The global anti-apartheid movement, Mandela's imprisonment drew international attention. Around the world, activists, artists, students, and politicians called for his release. Countries imposed sanctions on South Africa, boycotted its goods, and demanded the end of apartheid. Songs were written about Mandela. Protests were held outside South African embassies. The world was watching and pressuring the South African government to change. In the 1980s, as internal resistance grew and international pressure mounted, it became clear that apartheid could not survive much longer. Freedom and Negotiation, 1990 to 1994. On February 11, 1990, after 27 years in prison, Nelson Mandela was finally released. The images of Mandela walking out of Victor Verster prison with his fist raised became iconic. Soon after his release, he led negotiations with President F.R.W. de Klerk to end apartheid and build a new, democratic South Africa. In 1993, Mandela and de Klerk were jointly awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The negotiations led to South Africa's first multiracial elections in 1994. President Mandela, 1994 to 1999. On May 10, 1994, Nelson Mandela became South Africa's first black president, elected by people of all races in a democratic vote. His presidency focused on national reconciliation, racial healing, and building a united country. He established the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, led by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, to investigate human rights abuses during apartheid. Mandela also worked to rebuild the economy, invest in education, and provide housing and health care for the poor. One of his most symbolic acts was supporting the national rugby team, the Springboks. During the 1995 Rugby World Cup, a team once seen as a symbol of white supremacy, when South Africa won, Mandela wore the team jersey and handed the trophy to the captain, Francois Pienaar, uniting the nation in a powerful moment of hope. Life after the presidency, 1999 to 2013. After serving just one term, Mandela stepped down in 1999, setting an example for future leaders. In retirement, he focused on global peace, human rights, and the fight against HIV/AIDS, a major crisis in South Africa. He founded the Nelson Mandela Foundation and worked with organizations like the Elders, a group of global leaders advocating for justice and equality. Mandela's later years were quieter but no less impactful. He remained a moral guide, beloved by people around the world. Death and legacy. On December 5, 2013, Nelson Mandela passed away at the age of 95. His death was mourned around the world. Millions of people, from presidents to ordinary citizens, paid tribute to his life and legacy. He was buried in his home village of Kunu, where his journey had begun nearly a century before. Why Nelson Mandela still matters. Nelson Mandela's story is not just about one man. It's about the power of courage, forgiveness, and determination to change the world. He taught us that freedom is not given, it must be fought for. Peace requires justice. Real leadership means serving others, not yourself. Even in the darkest prison, hope can survive. His legacy lives on in the ongoing struggles for equality around the world. Whether it's fighting racism, defending human rights, or building stronger democracies. Thank you for watching my video. I hope this story of Nelson Mandela inspired you or taught you something new. If you found this video useful or interesting, please like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Your feedback helps me create better content and share more stories that matter. Let Mandela's words stay with you. It always seems impossible until it's done. See you in the next video.